Eternal Return is a fun game, but if you're like me, playing the game just isn't enough for you. If you like that competition aspect of climbing the rank ladder, then this video is going to be for you. What's poppin' everyone, it's your boy Levi, and we're going to talk about the strategies I use to help me reach Titan in Eternal Return, and how you can apply them to not only Eternal Return, but any game that you play. When you're first getting into Eternal Return, you probably learned a lot through experience. There's probably not a lot of strategy that goes into your play, and that's actually very effective in the early stages of learning the game. Once you start to get decent at the game though, you'll begin to plateau. I've heard from countless players that they feel like all of a sudden like a switch flipped. They went from getting kills and doing well in games to low placements and losing fights. That's why mindset is the first important strategy that we're going to talk about. You need to be honest with yourself and recognize what level of play you're at. Assess your strengths and weaknesses is the first step on the journey to getting better. Take a moment to reflect on your gameplay and get the proper feedback. Take note of how and where you died. Was that fight truly unavoidable and there was nothing you could do about it? Maybe you got one shot with no counterplay. What about the moments leading up to that fight then? Feeling hopeless about your gameplay is just going to lead you to tilt, and when you're tilting, you're not going to improve. Trust me, I've been there. I uploaded a YouTube short a while back getting one shot by an Adela. I framed the video trying to show that there was nothing that I could have done in this situation, in hopes that I could get some feedback from others about what I could have done before the play. By recognizing our shortcomings, we can avoid tilt. Our flaws are laid out for us, and we know where to improve. So now that we know that we need to recognize our faults, let's talk about how to improve them. The single best way I've found at improving your gameplay is watching players better than you. Head on over to Twitch and watch your favorite streamers and ask them questions in chat. I know a ton of streamers are open to answering questions, especially if it's about their main character. You can also head over to dac.gg and click the Masters tab. Here you can search from the top ranking players for the character that you play. Then you can grab their in-game IDs and watch their replays. When you watch higher elo players, don't just passively watch. I know it can be fun to just sit and watch some high elo gameplay, but really engage with what you're watching. Take note of their decision making. Try to figure out why they went to alpha or a battle zone. What direction and order did they take their loot distribution in? Why did they run away from this specific character, but run towards another one? Learn how they fight different matchups. Did they use an ability to dodge or engage? What transitions did they go? And why did they go different transitions in a different game? Really take in why they do the things they do. Another good tip is if you're watching replays, toggle the vision of the player that you're watching, so that you can see what they see. See what kind of decisions they make based on what information that they are given at any time. And take notes if you have to. I deadass had pages and pages of notes when I was first learning Eternal Return. Eternal Return is a game where the barrier to entry is very high. The average player is much better at the game than your typical average player in any game. When I was taking notes, I would write down what high elo players did at each moment of the game, then compare them to what I did. I would take notes on what was happening in the games around me, what food they made in what specific zone. Take serious notes for each game and then analyze the patterns that start to form. It's likely these patterns will lead to the most optimal game plan. And once you've mapped out all these things you do need to improve, then you do make that game plan. Focus on one thing at a time and work chronologically. Make sure your routing is on point. Which loot distributions are you taking first? Am I crafting at the optimal times? What do I do when I miss a specific item? Then move on to the rest of the early game. There's no point in practicing your final zone 1v1 if you can't make it past day 2. Remember, the big thing when trying to improve is that you're playing for improvement. We're not playing to win every single game. Set smaller goals for yourself, like finishing your build by night 1 or making it to Wick on time. The smaller accomplishments will help keep you on track, and eventually your bigger goals will just end up being smaller goals. When you get past the introductory stages of playing to improve, and you've done all the right things to set yourself up for success, it's time to introduce a game plan for playing. Limit testing is an important part of any game, and there's a specific way I like to limit test. First, let's talk about what limit testing is not. Limit testing is not full sending it psycho style into enemies with no regard, just going through the motions. You don't really learn much from that. Instead, think of limit testing as the answer to a question. If you find yourself in a situation where you're asking yourself a question about the game, and you don't know what the answer is, the correct play is to 100% do whatever the thing you're concerned about is. Can I contest night 1 tree against insert character here? Yes, you should immediately run to that tree and test if you can. Is insert item here good on my character, or does it feel bad? Try it out. A typical rank season of Eternal Return lasts 3 months or roughly 12 weeks. I like to spend 75% or the first 8 weeks of the season gathering information and learning what I can. I'm not playing to win any of these games during this time. I'm learning matchups that I wouldn't normally fight. I'm learning how different item combinations feel. This is entirely a learning phase for me. Then for the last 4 weeks of the season, I take everything I've learned and sweat as hard as possible. This is similar to how a lot of esports teams approach improvement. They spend time learning in scrims and the early parts of a season to employ what they learn when it matters most at the end of the season or in tournaments. For me, doing so has been one of the biggest improvements as to how I've managed to consistently hit the higher elos over the past couple seasons. And it's not because I had any natural talent when coming into Eternal Return. I started Bronze 2-0 LP, and I came 16th in my very first ranked game. I quite literally started at the bottom of the ranked ladder. The last strategy I want to touch on is good practice versus more practice. It's a common misconception that the more you play, the better we'll get. There is some truth to that, but if you're playing every game in a negative mindset, not making changes to how you play, and just doing the same things over and over, you're just going to continue making the same mistakes. If nothing changes, nothing changes. When you feel yourself starting to slip, either from tilt or mechanical fatigue, just take a break. Go touch grass. Join a Discord call and talk with your friends. Whatever you need to do, just do something other than playing the game. And the same thing goes for when you start playing. If you aren't in the mindset that you're ready to play and improve, then don't start playing. This will only lead you to resent the game, and you'll experience burnout much quicker. Climbing the ranked ladder of Eternal Return can be tough, but I'm here to help you improve. On screen right now, you're seeing one of the players that submitted their replay for coaching. I stream free live coaching where you can submit your replays and get feedback on your game. Think of it like a VOD review. Keep an eye on my community tab and turn on that bell so that you can get notified for when the form to submit goes live. If you don't feel like you're ready for live coaching yet, be sure to click or tap the screen now and you'll be taken to a playlist with all of my beginner's guides to Eternal Return.